started? Show. Happy Monday, guys. Welcome to Puck Time. We were off a couple days last week. We did record and put one out on Thursday, Friday, only one game. So there was no show and no 6 and 60, but the 6 and 60 will return this week, and we'll look to build off of that 5 and 1 the last time out, and announce a winner towards the end of the show of the last Puck Time merch giveaway. It's all playoffs, guys. All playoffs. All discussion today is playoff teams: Vancouver, New Jersey, Columbus Blue Jackets, New York Islanders, Andrew's prop playlist, and then Detroit and Utah in the closer tonight. The last game of the night could turn out to be one of the best games of the night, believe it or not. And hopefully we'll give you some actionable info along the way. But let's bring in our man, Andrew McInnes. Welcome back, sir. Are you feeling okay? I know that you're having a bit of an upper body injury there today.
Yeah, it feels like I just got in a fight. I have a nosebleed right now. Always right before the show's about to begin. But yeah, Carm, looking forward to the show. I like the games that you chose. Obviously not too many games today, but all games with pretty much playoff implications, which are fun to talk about. Quiet weekend for myself, picks-wise, busy weekend personal-wise. So looking forward to getting back into business. And these games are picking up, man. It's a good time right now in the NHL because every night there's a lot of meaningful games.
Yeah. And when we look at meaningful, we're looking at two different angles here, Andrew. Your team that you cheer for, not that you own, and my team that I cheer for, and not that I own, but are in two different races right now. The Sabres are in the race to begin golf season down in Florida. They're putting in a couple of good efforts, but their season is toast. Hoping they can hold on to one of those bottom three spots overall and have a chance at that number one pick and ruin someone else's career. While you and the Montreal Canadiens, right smack dab in the playoff race right now, Andrew. Your team is playing extremely well, holding on to eighth spot. 12 and 13 games left for some of these teams. Man, it is coming down to the wire. And I want to kick it off with the first game, Andrew. New Jersey minus 140 at home over Vancouver plus 120. The total here sits at 5.5. And if you look at the totals on the WagerTalk live lines, it is hard to believe none of these books at the moment want to go to 5 for this total. They are hanging juice of anywhere from 135 to 150. I'm seeing on there for 5.5. They don't want to go to 5. I don't understand why, but I know 5s normally can end up in pushes for the books. They want to clear out winner. But Andrew, minus 150, I'm seeing VIG on the under at. Let me find the book that one's at. The Superbook. Westgate, even circa minus 35, Bet Online minus 45, Bookmaker minus 48 on the under, minus 148. You almost never see this kind of stuff. So my thought to you is this, Andrew. Are you completely skipping the total and taking one of these two teams? I will say this. You look at Vancouver and read the news on this team. It looks like Elias Pettersson's going to be out. Höglander going to be out. Lankinen is injured. And now they're rushing back Thatcher Demko. And Thatcher Demko could actually start tonight. It was reported yesterday. A team that is not in a playoff spot right now and pushing for a playoff spot in which they're probably only going to last a round. Do you risk, Andrew, losing a guy like Thatcher Demko for another year if this guy comes in, is not ready to go? He hasn't played since February the 8th and gets injured again.
I think that this Vancouver Canucks team has risked a lot this season, Carm. I think they've as far as Quinn Hughes' injury is concerned, Ronick's been injured. There's been a handful of guys injured. And of course, you talk about the whole Pedersen and JT Miller situation. It's been just a whole reality TV show over there. We talk about making documentaries and docuseries about certain players and teams in a positive way. How about we make a documentary in a negative way about this Vancouver Canucks team right now? Because there's been so much going on with this team this season, not on the ice, that has just simply caused distractions for the entire hockey club. And I feel like it's been very difficult for them to deal with. To answer your question, I don't think they should do that. I think that they need to realize that's their goalie. That's the guy they need to get healthy. And it does suck when you have a goalie that's been battling nagging injuries. But at the end of the day, you need that goalie healthy long-term, not just for a short-term stretch. So personally, I think that you got to kind of ride it out. But this is the thing, Carm. A lot of people looked last year at the Vancouver Canucks, what they were able to do the end of the season, into the playoffs, and they said, you know what? That's my team for this year. That's the team that I want to look at moving forward. And the thing is, sometimes when a team pulls off such a great stretch and such a great run one year, it's hard to actually maintain that momentum into the next season. So a lot of people really liked Vancouver to keep building off last year's playoff success and end of regular season success, but it's hard to do it back-to-back years. Now, for the Devils, it's kind of interesting. I'm sure you saw the quotes about Sheldon Keefe and Jonathan Kovacevic, who's a player that I was a big fan of when he played in Montreal. He said after their game against Ottawa, our team just has to start pretending every game is a playoff game, get into playoff hockey mode as it stands right now. And then they asked Sheldon Keefe what he thought about that quote from Kovacevic, and Keefe just said, well, I think Kovacevic has to play better himself before he worry about anything else. First of all, I never saw him say that once when he coached the Maple Leafs, calling out players like that. But number two, it sounds like there's some stress going on right now in Jersey. When you talk about the games that they've won, it's like, cool, low-scoring victory over the Blue Jackets, but to give up 7 against the Penguins, 5 against the Flames, and to lose in a low-scoring battle there against the Devil or against the Senators, it's very weird to me. So, when I look at this game, at first, I want to look towards the underdog, because I think about the value and I think about that, but I just can't ignore when a coach calls out their team, calls out a certain player. And 3 of the last 4 games just haven't been great for this Devils team. And they're getting Vancouver, who's been just traveling around, playing some different games. Hasn't been a good run for them either, Carm. But I think I want to side with this Flames team here. Or excuse me, with this Flames team. I want to side with this Devils team here, looking at some of the games that they've had. And if we want to try and look for some plus money, as usually, I try to do in certain situations like this, you can look towards team totals. You can look towards first period plays, but I think the best way to go about this one is just by taking Vancouver team total under 2.5 goals. We know that the Devils at their whole, they are a defensive team when they're going to win games. And so I understand, it's minus 125, 130. You can take that first period minus a half goal if you want, because they're coming off a game where their coach called them out. But in my opinion, the best way to look at it is hoping that the Devils shut down the Vancouver offense.
Andrew, I struggle with this one. I think it's the actual number coming down, which I don't get. I was looking across some books, and I know like Circa. I know the opener was 165, but Circa, one of the books that I respect as far as their hockey goes. They opened at like 147 and they're down to about 138. So not a huge move. It did dip a little bit. I think the 165 was always going to be a little too high for two teams that are in a playoff battle in different conferences, number one. And then number two, this total. When you see a total at 5.5, 50 cents to the under, they're not expecting a lot of goals in this one. It could be one of those games that goes to OT. And when it goes to OT, you hate to be holding a ticket that's minus 140 on what essentially turns into a coin flip. Obviously, the Jack Hughes thing hurts New Jersey. and the shoulder surgery 3 weeks ago. But there's just too many variables on Vancouver right now. The Pedersen, Hoglander, a team that is struggling to score at times and just doesn't play well on the road. They're going to play. It's got to be a defensive effort from them, and then to see what's going to happen with the goalies. I see some sites still list Lankinen, but all the talk was that because Demko did practice, that he would likely start, and if he doesn't start here, then he's likely going to start Wednesday when they play the New York Islanders. So with that said, Andrew, I'm not sure because you look at Vancouver and they have what I believe 11 or 12 games left. If I'm looking at this correctly, this is what Vancouver has, Andrew, in the way of a schedule. Now, you tell me if this is a schedule that you want when your team is trying to gain points and get into a playoff spot. 6 of their last 8 games are at home. They play the Vegas Golden Knights twice, Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg, Minnesota. So right there, 6 teams that are battling for playoff spots. They're playing the Islanders in a couple days. They're playing New Jersey now. Their only games left this season in which they are playing against a team that is not in a playoff battle or is not in a playoff position is 2, where they play Seattle and Anaheim back-to-back at home. Those are the only 2 games, Andrew, that Vancouver has against non-playoff teams. When you're playing the way they're playing right now, it's got to be playoff hockey from tonight onwards. But saying it doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. Thoughts on, do they make the playoffs? Let's start with the easiest question.
I don't think so. I mean, their yes right now is plus 400. So I guess I'm not really giving us the most bold take right now. But you know what's funny, Carm, is that as East Coasters and as a bias for me, because I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, I was so caught up in that Eastern Conference wildcard race. And kudos to you for bringing it up. I've tried to bring it up occasionally, but I've kind of forgotten about the other side of the table, right? Because I'm so excited about one side of the table. Looking at the Canucks plus 400, Utah Hockey Club plus 550, St. Louis Blues plus 120. So that's kind of it for the Western Conference. Oh, Calgary Flames actually plus 185. So, I mean, how about those Flames? I saw that quote on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday. Jonathan Huberdeau, he says, man, what a road trip. What a road trip. I just can't wait to get off the plane and have a beer with my teammates. That's what he says. They're on a playoff stretch right now, Carm, a wild card race. And he says, man, I just can't wait to go have a beer with my teammates. Great road trip for that Calgary Flames team. But, I know we don't want to spend too much time on these teams, but I'll say this. It's important to mention some of these odds with the Flames and Blues. And then, of course, the Canucks being at the price that they are. If they lose tonight, Carm, they probably go back to like 550 or something like that. But Jim Montgomery, some people said his contract was up in Boston, so maybe he wouldn't even have signed back with them as it stands in general. But he's at it again, man. The St. Louis Blues are doing well. Jim Montgomery's at it again. And you know what? Maybe he's found a team that plays the way he wanted the Boston Bruins to play. Because the past few years, the Boston Bruins weren't exactly the big bad Bruins. And now this year, he gets to coach the St. Louis Blues, who play like the old-fashioned big bad Bruins. They have that great top line, but they're so physical. They score greasy goals. They have a big defensive core. Jordan Binnington playing well. Like, this St. Louis Blues team means business, Carmen, and no one's really talking about them right now.
I was talking about them a couple of weeks ago. I said, if you're going to take a team to make Dan, find that clip from 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure what day it was or what time of the program it was, but you're so good at finding this stuff. I did. I talked about the St. Louis schedule that they had ahead and that they were playing better. And lo and behold, here we are. There's opportunities in these last 12 or 13 games. Let's just remember before we move on to the second game between Columbus and the New York Islanders, that every season, and Andrew, you mentioned playing playoff hockey, every season, it almost seems like you can find a team that goes in the last month of the season, goes on a run and carries it into the playoffs. We can go as far back as the aforementioned St. Louis Blues, who were in last place at around Christmas time in the league. And then Jordan Binnington gets called up. They go on a 13-game winning streak, and they were playing playoff hockey for the last half of the season because they had to make the playoffs, make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and win Game 7 in Boston. The Washington Capitals, who everyone, including myself, stamped them as dead last year, just won games, forced overtime, picked up points, made it into that final playoff spot with a minus 40 goal differential. They got bounced, but they were playing hockey and profitable hockey the last 2 weeks of the NHL season. So you find some of these teams, the Florida Panthers, in their first run to the Cup, they weren't even in a playoff position in the last month. They had to work to get into a playoff spot, make it in there. It took its toll. They knocked out the Bruins. They lost players along the way, and then they lose to the Vegas Golden Knights. And they really only had half a team left. I think they were just beaten up and bruised at that point. But there's always going to be a team. Just find it. Look through their schedules. Look at teams that are playing well. And I'm more likely to obviously play on the teams that are playing well, Andrew, than the ones that aren't. And this Vancouver team has gone, 3-7 their last 10 road games. And their 3 wins all came in OT in San Jose, in LA against the Kings, and in Calgary against Vancouver. Now they're on the West Coast or the East Coast where it hasn't, it doesn't look to be going well right now. And by the time they return home, they could be farther out of a playoff spot than they want to be. Too many variables on this Vancouver team for me to even want to take them at plus money. So it's Devils for me. And I'm going to throw it to you. Columbus, New York Islanders, another low line on this one. Columbus, 11th place, 4 back. Islanders, 10th, 2 back of your Montreal Canadiens. How are you breaking this one down?
It is crazy, Carm. I'm looking at this, and I think this is a perfect example of honestly a team running out of gas. That's how I would describe the Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's be honest; they were the team that was sitting in that second wildcard spot for the longest time so far. And of course, the Montreal Canadiens managed to squeak in there right now. You've had the New York Rangers in there, but I think out of the Rangers, the Canadiens, and of course this very Blue Jackets team, the Blue Jackets have still held that real estate for the longest, but they just ran out of gas. And that's the problem, is like, you almost don't want to hit your peak too early. You almost don't want to, go on that big winning streak too early in the season, or else you're kind of going to have that losing streak come and kind of things come back to earth a little bit for you. And I find that that's a little bit what has happened now for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, looking at this New York Islanders team, they have just found a way. I mean, this is a team that I always joke around. They are not fun to watch. Looking at natural stat trick right now, Carm, they're actually creating chances. You look at their game against the Flames that they lost in OT, they picked up that crucial overtime loser point, as I call it, losing 4-3 in overtime, still scoring 3 goals. Then they beat the Canadiens in overtime by putting up 4 goals. So back-to-back games, they guarantee themselves at least 1 point. Put up 4 goals against the Penguins, 4 goals against the Panthers. I'm not sure what's going on with this team right now, Carm, but they believe they have an offense. They believe that they can score. And what's funny is they trade away Brock Nelson, they trade away a couple players, and yet this team thinks that they can score. And the funny thing is, when we look at this Blue Jackets team, we're going to talk about hunger. I mean, geez, 6-3 loss to the Penguins, shutout against the Panthers, 2-1 loss to the Devils, shutout against the Rangers, shutout against the Golden Knights. This team hasn't won a game in weeks. It feels like it anyway. It's been a tough go for them. When I look at this game, though, I'm betting the over here, Carm. A lot of times I say that these games that mean so much for these teams vying for a playoff spot are going to be low scoring, but it also seems like it's a very slow start, kind of a stalemate out the beginning. And then once 1 or 2 goals go in, it's just an absolute free for all. The floodgates open up and we see the goals start to pile in. And I just think as of right now, where we're sitting, this New York Islanders team, shockingly, because I can't believe I'm saying this, they're not that team right now that gets a lead and protects it. So whether we're looking at the team total, whether we're looking at over 5.5, whether we're laying a better price with over 6, I think tonight's game we see goals. I mean, when the Columbus Blue Jackets turn things around, Carm, and tonight could be the night, I can't see it being in low scoring fashion with the way this team's playing. I can't see goals slowing down in Blue Jacket games right now. And right now, the Islanders think they have an offense. I'm on the right spot here, Carm? I mean, is it hard to take? I mean, I can't see anybody laying a case right now for the Jackets unders. It'd be very hard to make a case for that.
This would have been a good lead-in game for your bloody nose because we're going to be on opposite ends
Oh,
here. Um, I like the under in this game, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that it's going to be a climb play because it won't be. Um, my lean on the under, Andrew, is based on the fact that Columbus, who have been such an entertaining team all season long. A lot wasn't expected of this team after what happened in the off season, but they've battled all season long, man. This team, their fan base. I'd love to see them make the playoffs because everyone keeps telling me what a fantastic fan base the Columbus Blue Jackets have. And you get the Islanders. Islanders scoring goals is something I'm not used to. I just think that this game with both teams, and you don't want to hear this, Andrew, but both teams needing 2 points, it'll be a tighter checking affair that could go to overtime, and they share points, which
I
is
would
never
hate it.
good for the teams in
No.
playoff spots. You hate it, I know, because 3 points awarded. Go back, give me the NHL, where if you win in regulation, you get 3 points. If you win in OT, you get two. And if you lose in OT, you get one. And that's it. 3-2-1. Perfect. Oh, reward the teams that win it in 60 minutes. But with that said, Andrew, 7 goals in 6 games for Columbus. 3 of the games they've been shut out. They're just not scoring, but they are getting healthy. So they're getting some bodies back, which is important for them as well too. But this is a team that's lost 6 straight, 8 of their last 9. It's got to get better. It can't possibly get any worse. It's going to be a good one in New York, but the Islanders just seem to hold over them at home. They've won 9 of the last 10 meetings between these two in New York, and that's where I'm going to land here. I'm leaning Islanders, and I'm leaning under in this one. So give me 3-2, not in overtime. Does that make you happy?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Carm, at this point, I'm just cheering for no overtime. When I see teams playing each other like this, I mean, right now the Habs' biggest threat, of course, is the Islanders, who have kind of come to play, which it's been so cool to track. And I know people kept on telling me, like, oh, well, it's so far away from playoff time. Like, there's no point in checking on these playoff odds every time. Well, hearing people say that's not going to stop me. Every single day I've been checking the playoff odds and team to make the playoff odds. And I just find it so interesting because you and I both know, Carm, on paper means a hell of a lot different than the heart that certain teams are playing with. And honestly, I had a long day on Saturday, and when I got to watch that comeback from the Montreal Canadiens, they didn't get the win, but they come back against the Avalanche and they get that loser point by losing in the shootout, as I talked about. That's a different team than I've seen. And the New York Rangers, plus 250 right now to make the playoffs, with the Habs right now being plus 130. It's like, what the hell has happened to the New York Rangers to be able to get there, to do what they're doing? They just can't get the job done. And of course, the New York Islanders just right behind there at plus 200, plus 210. So it's exciting, Carm, and we'll see what happens with a team like Columbus, because if Columbus doesn't win tonight, you really start to think they're just done, and then it's a 3-way race between the Habs, Rangers, and the Islanders. I mean, Columbus needs wins, and they need them ASAP.
Yeah. Yeah, they do, Andrew, and this is a great thing. I've been harping on this one for the last month or 2 months, is the fact that there's so many teams battling for playoff spots in the East and the Western Conference that we're getting meaningful games, which is great. We haven't seen too many of those like we've seen in the past, and maybe we will see them in the last week or so, week or 10 days, where you see these teams that are minus 400, minus 450. It's terrible doing a show, guys, when there's only 3 games and 2 of the teams are minus 450. What are you going to talk about? You have to find a different perspective. You have to find a different angle. And sometimes it just doesn't work. So we'll see what happens with this one. I don't think Columbus is going to roll over and play dead tonight against this New York Islanders team. I think getting some bodies back in the lineup, they're going to give them a bit of a game tonight. And the line is just fair enough on the Islanders that I think it should be a play. If they can put in a 60-minute defensive effort, the Islanders, which they normally or in the past have done at home, they'll get the win there. Andrew, you got some props for us? I need a couple prop bet winners for tonight.
Let's do it, Carm. We've got 2 player props tonight in the NHL, and 2 with some pretty good streaks behind them and some pretty good numbers to back them up a little bit here. So we'll start with the first one's going to be Vladimir Tarasenko from the Detroit Red Wings, and we're going to go over 1.5 shots on goal. And Carm, I find these days in the NHL, no matter who you're betting on, it's hard to get 3 shots on goal. You know, even the superstars that have their number at 3.5, it's tough to get to 4 shots on goal because defensive hockey has been so crucial lately. It's been so key for some of these teams. So shot counts seem to overly be much lower than they were before. So betting these guys that get 1.5 over versus 2.5 or 3.5 has been really nice. And Tarasenko, he has hit this prop, Carm, in 10 of his last 13 games, and they continue to have this number here. When they change the odds, it doesn't matter to me as much until they change the number. When they put him at 2.5 plus money, I'm out on it. But when you keep it at 1.5 at the minus 130 price, that's fine by me. I'm cool with it. I'll take Vladimir Tarasenko as they're a very desperate team, and they got to get some shots tonight and some goals against the Utah Hockey Club. The next one I'll look at, of course, is going to be a guy on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And if they're going to have any hope in winning tonight, if they're going to have any hope of getting back on track, if they're going to be able to find their way back into the wild card race, they're going to need this guy to be their leader, who missed a lot of time with injuries this year. But that guy is Sean Monahan. He has at least 1 point in 4 straight games. One thing about the NHL, guys, compared to a sport like basketball, he can't go out there and drop 40 points and take over the game. You know, there's 4 lines of players out there. There's your goalie, you know, whatever he's going to do. There's your defenseman. But Sean Monahan's going to do everything that he can do to will this team to a victory. I like the over in the game overall, but I do think Sean Monahan continues his streak. Yes, this price is a little bit chalky at minus 155, but I think as the Columbus Blue Jackets go, Sean Monahan goes. As Monahan goes, they go. They need him to be their main guy. Number 1 center on this team right now. I think Monahan will get another point for the Blue Jackets. So maybe if you're feeling dangerous, you can get that little same game parlay. Monahan point plus over 5.5 goals. But me and Carm are head to head on that one. So maybe just stick with the player prop. We'll try and go 2-0 with these player props tonight, Carm.
All right, man. I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to throw something at you before we go to this final game. So Columbus and New York Islanders. I'm not ready to put this one to bed just yet. I'm looking at DK on teams to make the playoffs. Columbus is plus 600 to make the playoffs. The no is minus 900. The New York Islanders are plus 210. The no is minus 260. And these teams are separated by 2 points, Andrew, right now. But I'm going to quickly throw who these teams play to close out the season. The New York Islanders will tonight, and then their season closer is against Columbus in Columbus. In between, they get Vancouver, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, the Washington Capitals, the Nashville Predators, the New York Rangers, the Philadelphia Flyers, the New Jersey Devils, the Washington Capitals. That's a lot of teams competing for playoff spots still. Will they be competing when they get into the second half of that schedule? Maybe, maybe not. The Columbus, they get Vancouver after this one, then Ottawa, Nashville, Colorado, the Maple Leafs, Ottawa again, 3 games against Ottawa, the Buffalo Sabres, Washington Capitals back to back, Philadelphia, and then close with the Islanders. I would go out on a limb and say that Columbus's schedule is a little easier than the New York Islanders, and that disparity in the prices right now to make the playoffs. I get it. There's still teams in front of them, the New York Rangers, the Montreal Canadiens. But the fact that they play the Ottawa Senators 3 times, they can put a dent in that team as well, too. Any thoughts on those prices?
Well, it is a good point, Carmen, because like I said, they were in the lead or they were in the spot for a while and then they lost it. But who's to say they can't earn it back? Because if they went on a losing streak, they sure can go back on a winning streak and get that spot back. The New York Islanders are playing some of their best hockey right now. You mentioned those schedules. I like some of those games for the Islanders, but I also look at that price there on the Blue Jackets. Like you said, at this point, if you took the Islanders to make the playoffs, you're pretty much buying a stock at like the highest point you can buy it. You know what I mean? Like you might as well not jump in now on this Islanders team. If you want to bet on the Islanders, I mean, it's the same thing for the Canadians. Unless you just really think it's going to be a smooth sailing trip for them and they're going to lock in the playoffs. I mean, we talked about it 3 weeks ago. I tried to say, hey, non-biased guys, plus 410 looks good to me. And, whenever I have these takes on the Canadians, it's hard for me not to look biased to all you guys. But now you're kind of making a bad bet if you take the Habs or even if you take the Islanders. So I think the Blue Jackets are probably the play, Carm, because I think they could level it up a little bit and make up some ground. But tonight's game, as I said, is crucial. Tonight's game starts it off. You got one team playing really good hockey, and you got one team that hasn't won. What's the losing streak for the Jackets again? Was it 5 of their last 6 or something like that? It's not been good for them.
6 in a row, 8 of their last 9. Yeah, 6 in a row, 8 of the last 9. So like even look at they're getting Monahan back, right? Monahan's last game was what? Looking here, January 7th against the Pittsburgh Penguins in an OT game. So he's been off a while. They need him back in the lineup. We'll see, Andrew. But you talk about kind of must-win games or huge games. This is a huge game. Maybe not so much for Detroit that have tailed off at the moment, but the Utah Hockey Club. I'm quickly becoming a Utah Hockey Club fan, Andrew. 75 points, 2 big wins. Okay, they beat the Buffalo Sabres, but that was their first game back off of a long road trip. And usually those ones don't turn out well. You hit a nice winner with that one on Utah team total. And then they beat Tampa Bay, a very good Tampa Bay squad. They are 6 points behind the St. Louis Blues with 2 games in hand. Those game in hands mean nothing unless you win them. One of them is tonight. Win this game against Detroit, you pull within 4 points. They're plus 550 to make the playoffs. Guys, you know me, man. I'm all for a good pizza bet, slice bet. Pizza bet on Utah to make the playoffs, plus 550 for me, Andrew. As far as tonight's game goes, I think we're going to see goals. Utah seems to be scoring goals at home. They're on a good run at home, 7-2-1, their last 10 games on home ice. And remember, this is a team that struggled immensely at the beginning of the season to even find a win on home ice. And now they're getting them. Protect home ice for the rest of the season, win some games on the road, and you might squeak into the playoffs, Utah. I'm going to take the over. I think we're going to see some goals tonight from this Utah team, and I think Detroit will get theirs, albeit likely in a losing effort. What do you think, Andrew?
I like that ending there, Carm, albeit in a losing effort. I think the home team and that price that you mentioned is a good number there. I often like to play first period totals when it's more like 115, 125. I'm seeing like 130 or 135, but man, I like this first period over in this one. Desperation from the Detroit Red Wings. They're not going to be happy about that game against the Vegas Golden Knights. And right now, again, it's kind of like what I said about Columbus. I think when Detroit snaps out of whatever is going on with them right now, it's going to have to be with an offensive outburst. I don't trust their defensive core. That's always been my issue with Detroit. I don't trust their defense. It's not as much been their offense. Sure, the offensive players and the star players could come to life a bit more, but what it ultimately comes down to it is the defense kind of like lets them down at certain points. And the goaltending, as we all know, has been very inconsistent. And Johnny Detroit would tell us all about that as well, because you don't really know what you're going to get each night from the Detroit goaltending. And as far as Utah, you mentioned it, Carm, the way that they play at home in front of their home crowd, the way those first periods go, it definitely seems like Utah is a team that we can label as a team that builds off their home crowd. And the funny thing is, it's obviously a new franchise. It's a new team. People make jokes, but it's pretty true. Like, a lot of the fans are still learning about the game. But the funny thing is that's like takes less pressure off the players. People are there just to have a good time and scream and yell and cheer. And it seems like Utah definitely plays good hockey at home. So over 1.5 in the first period was something I liked as far as the total play in this game.
All right. There you have it. Some playoff games, Andrew. I'm going to try and choose games throughout the week when I put that schedule up, as long as it doesn't interfere with anybody's, if anyone has a big play over at WagerTalk. But I'm loving the discussion on playoff teams, and our chat is absolutely bumping with the guys who are talking about, guys who are out, guys who are on good runs, who they like tonight. And they're respectful to each other. That's the great thing about the Pucksters. Hit that like button, or we're going to bring back the Prez for 30 minutes to talk about why the like button is so important. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button as well, too. Guys, if you're not following Andrew and I, make sure you do so on the X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. Every once in a while, we will tweet out some stuff. And I tweeted out the other day, Andrew, about the Vegas Golden Knights. I just find it completely interesting. Sometimes there are streaks, and these streaks take on a life of their own. The Vegas Golden Knights, after beating Tampa Bay last night, their last 16 wins at home, they have covered the puck line in all 16 games. That is 16-0. So I tweeted out, if you're betting Vegas to win at home, you might as well take the puck line. They seem to cover it each and every time. 16-0, their last 16 wins at home on the puck line is a stat that you can't ignore. I tweeted it out when it was 15-0, and then I was like, oh, damn, they play Tampa Bay on Sunday. That's going to be a tough one because Lightning play well. Well, they buried the Lightning early in that one and then held on late. So 16-0, Andrew. Those streaks, I know every once in a while you come up with one. There's that other one that could be in play this week. I have to check it. The Seattle Kraken on the second of a back-to-back. They are now 0-11
Yes.
in the second of a
Yes.
back-to-back. Yes. So
That's
there's
shameful.
some
That's
relevance. I
shameful.
get it. There are trends. Yeah. There's some trends that are going to happen. And sometimes you can follow a trend and make money. But make sure that everything else within that game meets whatever your parameters are for making it a play or not. Don't rely on just one stat and say, okay, this is why I'm taking it one stat, because that normally that will blow up in your face. But with that said, Andrew, I'll close mine out and then send it to you. I've got two plays up in World Cup qualifying that go this afternoon at 3:45. So if you're looking to get some afternoon action in, qualifying for the World Cup has begun. I am so looking forward to it because I'm going to be traveling next year throughout the U.S. And here in Toronto, where some games are being hosted as well too for the World Cup, and hopefully meet up with some pucksters along the way at some of these games and stuff. The World Cup is in North America next season. 2 plays up, and I have 3 plays up in the NHL tonight. So pick up a one-day all access. The one coupon code CARM5 is the last coupon code available of that you can get $100 off of the rest of the NHL season and playoffs. That's a single-use coupon code, I was told. So once it gets used, it's done, and that deal is over. My best bet, I'm taking the New Jersey Devils. Again, too many things with Vancouver right now to make me feel good about even taking them on the road tonight. If Hoglander and Patterson are out, you get rid of a couple guys who provide a little bit of scoring for them, especially Pedersen. If Lankinen's not starting or is still injured and it's Demko, he hasn't played since February 8th. I just don't like the situation the Canucks are in right now. I'll take New Jersey minus 140, Andrew.
I'm with you on that one, Carm. Should be a good one, though, but I just a disaster over there in Vancouver. And we don't even get to see the Hughes brothers, and that's always kind of fun to look at. But we get to see one pair of brothers, but not the full trio of them. As of how it stands right now, even though it's not a huge slate, you will have at least 2 plays that you see up for grabs for me at WagerTalk. All access clients will get those, of course, as well. But my best bet for the show, Carm, I like this one quite a bit. This will be a client play. We're going to go to an Andrew team total here, and this is the minus 105 price. Dallas Stars to get to that magic number of 4 goals. Team total over 3.5 goals for the Stars against the Minnesota Wild. When I look at this game overall, I just kind of look at it as an example of, I think, a team that's going to come in super hungry versus a team that might be just like a bit satisfied and overconfident. The Wild, they beat the crap out of the Kraken 4-0. But right now, I don't know what the Kraken are. What can we even give them credit for? I don't care about that win over the Kraken. And then they beat the free space on the bingo card, the Buffalo Sabres 4-1. We don't care about that win either. You got the Dallas Stars right now. They're inconsistent. They're playing 1-goal games. They're up and down. This is a team that will be locked in, laser focused for this game against Minnesota. 2 teams, I think, long-term going in different directions this season, and we'll get a more focused team out of the Stars. So I think Stars get to 4 here tonight, guys. I want to know what all of you guys are betting tonight. I know you guys are commenting live in the chat room. Let us know below, comment before, and we'll shout some of you guys out. I'll make sure I do it tomorrow on the show. Let me know some bets, player props, totals, sides, whatever it is. We want to hear from you guys, and make sure on the way out you hit the like button. It definitely helps us out. The more likes PuckTime gets, the better for Carmine. It lets the people upstairs know that we're doing a good job, and that does help us out. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow right here on PuckTime.